Abusia mo kwa ba edo ba daily update TV so na hwe dwumade na subscribe my YouTube channel like and share na fa comment section. IMF na chese omabe meeting new administration like chese minister designate out of Forson and then abo modern then issue omo na chese omo ne abanwe ebetena se na omahwe ntakramu ahwe ekwan a ombefa so assist Mahama in his government na eniema kotote said the Ghana for then ehwehwe no na no no omo abesi omodi kan abagana but ombe finalize meeting no eda juada ebe yemfa credit ma joy news nenti yenyina nim se aban bi asesa IMF eno omo bihia na omo hwe the economic how they will grow the economy, how they will make the economy stabilize and what enjoyable for the good people of the Ghana no enti no mean say joy power mentally former aid and ma John Dramani Mahama eso ka say bi wo Jumedia Newz file joy and hosty enti IMF abagana said nim ama IMF omoba na oba be meeting new administration o matenase ebia IMF policy bi ebia moba mobeji loan economic growth ye be ne say like santo to ye no say o ma meeting minister designate said dem di kankai no ato Forson enti yenko tie brief that was a brief news and tie de Joyce Mutale Bawa ono so the submission bi ebaya eja ewomi pa enti yenwura nsem no muntantem na just say this will be a good news. The Ghana na Mahama say or resetting indeed because the steps are or they Ghana moving slow but sure. Let's just say pre no ho enyemrika true amamo de enyemrika true enti or resetting kakra say the economy no ebetimi ayere agina amagana fo nyina waton. God bless you.
Is not a program review or a staff engagement, but rather a management team visit. This usually is carried out by the IMF when there is a change in government, but the program of that country has not ended. Therefore, the team wants to engage this new administration about their economic policies and how that will impact on the program that Ghana has with the IMF. Joy Businesses learned that the team came to town yesterday and they are likely to finalize their meeting this weekend on Monday. Sources say the meetings are proceeding as planned, at least for now. However, persons close to government say this engagement may offer them an opportunity to test the waters when it comes to their push to renegotiate Ghana's program with the IMF. The IMF, on the other hand, has told Joy Business that even though they are not opposed to the program being reviewed, whatever government wants to push should be in line with the framework of the fund program. Now, Finance Minister designate Forson has also disclosed that if confirmed by Parliament, he will be moving for more funding for Ghana's program with the IMF and also a possible program extension.
Sense of a new leadership, a man who brings enormous experience to the job. I believe that a lot has actually been said already about President John Dramani Mahama's experience. A lot has also been said about this overwhelming endorsement, which clearly communicated also an outright repudiation, a total rejection, a referendum on the MPP administration led by President Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, and every single Ghanaian, at least majority of us, were telling them in very clear terms that this is not the governance that we were expecting. And that 8 years down the line, we thank you for at least putting yourself up to serve us. But no thank you. And certainly no thank you to your handpicked successor, former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I am certain that God continues to work in the affairs of man. I believe that at this moment, we cannot but all be agreed, let's be adidem, that the raison d'etre for which new leaders are elected to serve us is because we want something refreshing. You know, there's very few things that we can all, literally, there are few things we've never seen before. You know, everything we see now is actually a reinvention of what exists. It's actually innovations on what we already have. Look at the choreography. Look at the production. You can see that everything was intentional. Funny that Mr. Mahama's attire, his apparel, the agbada, has become such a huge sense of a rallying call for all of us. It symbolizes our hope. It symbolizes our aspirations. And when you actually walk into President Mahama's home, these symbols are actually on a wall in that house. I'm sure that many people have not noticed that he actually lives by the emblems and the symbolism of these Edinkra signs that we have. And when you look at his cufflinks, that's another thing that he wears all the time. They are actually all carved in these symbols. The beauty about the outfit is that it was curated to reflect a man of deep introspection. You know, if you know President Mahama personally, and I'm delighted that Professor Kweku Asare mentioned that he had actually sent him a memo, and every time he sends these memos, he'll copy me in them. And you'll be surprised that you'll walk in and Mr. Mahama is waiting to have a conversation about something that he received from Prof and the viability or otherwise of it, or that I'm adding on this and maybe tell Prof, this is what I expect to see. You know, there is a quality about President Mahama. It's his ability to interact with persons from all walks of life. And it's the fact that he also surrounds himself with enormous talent. You will be surprised the objectivity that he expects from those of us who work very closely to him. And this is one individual that if you were to walk in on a morning when President Mahama is wearing something, and then you look at it and you say, no, maybe we should do something else. Sometimes he will even ask you, so we're going here, what do you think I should wear? You know, this is a man of enormous thoughtfulness. I am delighted that God also granted him a second opportunity, another window to step onto this seat of government. And let's see just how differently he intends to lead this country this time. Ghanaians want leaders who come in to serve them. Ghanaians want leaders who exhibit compassion. Ghanaians want to see a leader who also exhibits a sense of sensitivity to what they expect. But let's look also at the goodwill that heralded this new dawn. The numbers of heads of state from Africa and beyond, the conversations in the United States of America by the outgoing President Biden administration about who should represent them at this particular inauguration, the conversations from the United Kingdom about who should represent the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the many prime ministers, vice presidents, envoys, and what have you, who thronged this, Black Star Square on that auspicious occasion. And the beauty about it was the resplendence, the reflection of our Ghanaian aspirations, how this symbol of, a belief in a better time for you, that was actually encapsulated and beautifully reflected on Mr. Mahama's attire, actually spoke volumes. The presence of his wife, the First Lady, Her Excellency, Madame Lodina Dramani Mahama, their lovely children who were all there now, all adult children, and indeed, the patriotism, the nationalism. And I love how President Mahama landed. He said that this beautiful country of ours is open once more for business. Note that in the 4 thematic areas that he spoke to, the first thing was to do with the fact that we ought to really look at our microeconomic issues, an economic restoration, not an economic reset only, but an entire restoration of what the economy needs. A presidential office whose budget approved by Parliament is in excess of 2 billion Ghana cedis. It's against the poor Ghanaian citizen who elected them into office. A large-sized government of well over 120 ministers and other appointees and counting. A system that actually rewarded just about anybody and everybody, save the people who elected them into office. On this particular auspicious occasion, we had talent like no other. And when I speak to the talent that the NDC has, there is a certain legacy that President Mahama will be leaving our democracy. It is in the numbers of young people that his whole time in politics has also inspired. Note the numbers of volunteers, the many youth, the many women, and this campaign actually was powered by the women and the young men of our great party. And look at the map of the election. There is no region in Ghana where the NDC did not receive support beyond our backbones that are largely our own territories. Look at the others too. The Western region is a new entrant where we won the majority of seats. The Central region, the most progressive thing that has happened in the last few years is the fact that for the very first time, Ghana has elected and sworn into office a female vice president of the Republic of Ghana. And you see, this is not just tokenism. This is a woman of many firsts. And I call her Nana Sipe because she is also a former senior prefect of the Girls High School. Nana comes to this job with enormous goodwill, with many accomplishments both locally and internationally. A great story of inspiration, of motivation, a reason why we believe that women can. And a few days ago, I had a fantastic opportunity to see our father, the Yagbonwura, when he called on President John Mahama. And his bodyguard was female. And in Gonja, we call them Mbonwura. So now I'm even wondering what the converse is when you have a female bodyguard. Look, Samson, something great is happening for Ghana. And just look at the first week in office. Even before he was sworn into office, we had conversations about oral, Operation Recover or Loot. You see, not every action should necessarily be cast in law, for example. There is a great raison d'etre for which society also listens to its citizens. And when you go to prosecute a campaign, you return to the table knowing just what the people are expecting. And yesterday we saw the inspection by that committee. And funny enough, some of the outcomes will interest you. That some people who have actually bought land that were assets belonging to the state, now saying that those assets should actually be returned to the state and that they are actually no longer even interested in pursuing the purchases. That must be something that is actually heartwarming.
Are they not saying
epic.
that out of frustration and potentially embarrassment that they will suffer under the
But there must
oral?
also be that sense of patriotism from our citizens beyond the law. That beyond taking them to court, especially when you hear that on some of these lands where nothing has taken place, they are just bare lands.
State lands.
Absolutely. And why do you think that this is actually such an important conversation? We inherited most of these things from our very first leader after independence. Over 60 years later, why should we allow an administration that comes into office for 8 years to literally partition everything that we hold dear and split to persons of great interest in their political party? This is something that every citizen of Ghana, Samson, is actually very interested in. And be that as it may, take all the legalities aside. People want to see a president deliver to their satisfaction. You see, look, we serve at the pleasure of the good people of Ghana. The best thing about this election is that Ghanaians have told us that our nascent democracy has probably come to stay. That even though there's a lot of apathy between our young people and what democracy actually offers them, a hungry stomach knows that if I can change this leader, something better would happen. An unemployed young person seeing the many people gratuitously living in the corridors of power at the pleasure of President Akufo-Addo and his family and friends members, and allowing a few people to feed fat on what should belong to all of us. For the very first time, we also have an inaugural speech that had no slogans, that actually reflected the reality of what is at hand, that spoke about a very difficult economic environment, that spoke to the challenges with hardship of the ordinary Ghanaian citizen, that now the Ghanaian citizen has actually also given to President a great number of members of parliament. That also speaks volumes, that on that day, many people went to cast their ballot looking at what their personal circumstances have been in the last 8 years. Everybody who took that step to go out there and vote for change did so with very high expectations. One thing I took away from this beautiful speech is the fact that it actually in many ways restores enormous hope. We can dream again, Mr. Mahama said. We can hope again, Mr. Mahama said. We can look forward to a leader who will do things and do them differently. You know, for many people who served at all levels of this great man from the minute he left office, And not many of us even believed at the time that he will want to return to contest for the elections. But for those who believed in that vision, we believe that a time will come when many people will realize that Ghana needs a leader who will also be sincere, a leader who will be compassionate, a leader who will not come to enrich himself or his members of his family, and a leader who will also try very hard, okay, to actually express to the people in ways that we probably have often overlooked that there is also space for others other than myself or my appointees. And he's told us, if you are going to be my appointee and you're going to come into office to continue with the arrogant posturing of the S1 administration, you have no place in my government. If you are coming in to seek personal aggrandizement, you have no place in my government. If you are coming in also just for personal gain, you have no space in my government. And a few days ago, one of our very distinguished party elders said to me, when all the appointments are in place, you people need to sit together and agree on how you intend to live in government, because you've also been in opposition for a very, very long time. But there must be discipline, and the discipline, Samson, must be demonstrated. And President Mahama spoke about something in the inaugural speech, and that he will expect that there will also be a quid pro quo of sorts, that I am willing to deliver for you. I have Nana in place to deliver for you, but you must also join me. Give me the support that I need so that together we can build the Ghana that all of us will be proud of. Samson, we are overly indebted at over 740 billion and counting. We have actually been locked out of international markets. We no longer have all the investors that we used to boast of. They've all left, and all we have now are awards of huge international arbitration courts, and everything goes against Ghana. What we are looking forward to is a very modest administration, okay? In outlook, in stature, in everything.
And the office of the president, is that why you are not spending on the president's portraits?
Let me tell you something, Samson. You see, there are many avenues for corruption.
Okay.
And corruption has become systemic, is endemic. Nepotism and extreme partisanship. Note that corruption actually flourishes in many ways. I have worked in the public service before, and believe you me, all these little things, production of diaries. You remember the very public issue about diaries. You remember the issues about even portraits of the president, for example. In America, wealthy as they are as a nation, people sponsor inaugurations. And of course, this is one of the great suggestions that we received, but of course, time was of the essence and it was very close to the occasion. So yes, we couldn't take this on board. But of course, I am hoping that in future, these are ways that we can explore also to even involve largely the private sector. So beyond all the things that we want to discuss is the fact that we are actually ushering in a new dawn. A new dawn where we don't come and sit and talk about parity in the tertiary education because Samson.
Subscribe my YouTube channel, like and share, comment, show my any of course you are breaking committee for any actual phone in Zoom. IMF one and an year can. There's a Almighty or make sure say a year Ghana and near my growth be a becoso kama. It's in Abushan was a say, O Jibber and I'll catch you, Medino, and you could see.